The centerpiece of Uncle Marcus's Thanksgiving table was a cornucopia made of actual gold leaf. It sat between the roasted heritage turkey and the imported truffle mashed potatoes, gleaming under the chandelier lights like a monument to excess. I stood in the entryway of his McMansion, stomping the slush off my boots. They were generic work boots, scuffed and worn. I wore a heavy flannel jacket that I'd had since college and jeans that had a stain on the knee from changing a tire earlier that morning. Well, look who finally decided to show up. Uncle Marcus boomed, walking into the foyer with a glass of scotch in his hand. He was wearing a velvet blazer and loafers with no socks. Dante, we were about to send a search party, or a welfare check. Traffic was bad, Uncle Marcus, I said, handing my coat to the maid, a woman who looked more tired than I felt. Happy Thanksgiving. Traffic is always bad when you drive a 2008 Civic. My cousin, Trent, snickered from the living room. Trent was 25, unemployed, and drove a Porsche his father leased for him. Does that thing even have heat, or do you just light a candle on the dashboard? It gets me from A to B, I said, walking into the dining room. The table was packed. My aunts, uncles, and cousins were all squeezed in, their faces flushed with wine and self-importance. There was only one spot left, a metal folding chair set up at the very corner of the table, separated from the main group by a gap of about 6 inches. The beggar's seat. Sit down, Dante, Aunt Linda said, waving a fork. We started without you. There's some dark meat left on the platter if you're quick. I know you rely on these meals for your protein intake. I sat on the cold metal chair. It wobbled. So, Dante, Uncle Marcus shouted down the table, making sure everyone could hear. What is it you're doing these days? Last year you said you were in, what was it? Asset management, which I assume is code for working at a pawn shop. Laughter rippled through the room. I buy and sell paper, I said simply, reaching for a bread roll. Paper, Trent laughed, spraying crumbs. Like Dunder Mifflin? Or like newspaper delivery? Just paper, I said, buttering the roll. It's boring stuff. You wouldn't be interested. You're right. I'm not, Marcus scoffed. Because while you're pushing paper, I am pushing boundaries. Did you see the driveway, Dante? Did you see the new beast? I saw a boat, I said. On a trailer. It looks expensive. The Seawolf 2, Marcus beamed. 50-footer. Custom teak deck. Twin engines. Send me back $500,000. But hey, you can't take it with you, right? $500,000? I asked, raising an eyebrow. I thought you said business was tight at the dealership this year. Marcus waved his hand dismissively. Cash flow is for poor people, Dante. Wealth is about leverage. It's about credit. It's about knowing how to play the game. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper that everyone leaned in to hear. I'll tell you a secret, Marcus said, winking at Trent. I didn't pay a dime of my own money for that boat. I took out a loan from this predatory lender 3 years ago, some shell company out of Delaware. High interest, nasty terms. And Aunt Linda asked nervously, Marcus, don't talk about that. Relax, Linda. It's brilliant, Marcus laughed. I stopped paying them 6 months ago. My lawyer found a loophole. The company that held the debt went under, and they sold their portfolio to some distressed asset firm. By the time the paperwork sorts out, the statute of limitations will be up. I got a free boat. A free boat, I repeated, taking a sip of water. Because you defaulted on a loan and are betting on bureaucratic incompetence. It's called strategy, Dante, Marcus sneered. It's how the rich stay rich. We don't pay debts, we negotiate them. Or we ignore them until they go away. You wouldn't understand. You pay your rent on the first of the month like a good little sheep, don't you? I do, I said. Exactly. Marcus pointed his fork at me. That's why you're sitting on a folding chair, and I'm sitting at the head of the table. You play by the rules. I make them. He stood up to carve the second turkey. To the Seawolf 2, Trent toasted. And to free money. To free money, the family cheered. I didn't cheer. I reached into the inner pocket of my flannel jacket. I felt the heavy, folded document against my chest. Uncle Marcus, I said, my voice cutting through the noise. What? He asked, annoyed. Do you want some gravy? You have to ask politely. I was wondering about that distressed asset firm you mentioned, I said. The one that bought your bad debt. What about them? Marcus shrugged. Some faceless LLC. Cerberus Capital or something. Who cares? They probably bought my loan for pennies on the dollar. They don't have the resources to chase me. Actually, I said, pulling the document out and placing it on the table next to the cranberry sauce. They bought it for 12 cents on the dollar. It was a bulk purchase, a package of toxic assets. The room went quiet. Marcus stopped carving. How would you know that? He asked slowly. Because Cerberus Capital isn't faceless, I said. It's me. You? Trent laughed. Dude, you drive a Civic with a dented bumper. You don't own a capital firm. I drive a Civic because I reinvest my profits, I said. And I specialize in high-risk debt collection. I buy the loans that banks are too scared to touch. The loans from people who think they are smarter than the system. I tapped the document on the table. I bought a portfolio last week, Uncle Marcus. 500 accounts. Mostly failed small businesses and reckless personal loans. I looked him in the eye. And guess whose name was at the top of the list? Uncle Marcus stared at the document lying next to the cranberry sauce. He didn't pick it up. He looked at it as if it were a bomb that had just started ticking. You? Marcus chuckled, but the sound was thin, lacking his usual bravado. Dante, stop it. You bought a portfolio? With what money? Your Christmas bonus from the newspaper route. I told you, Marcus, I said, reaching for a slice of turkey and cutting it calmly. I buy distressed assets. When a bank writes off a bad loan, they sell it cheap just to get it off their books. I bought your $500,000 loan for $60,000. $60,000? Aunt Linda gasped. You have $60,000? I have considerably more than that, Linda, I said. But that's not the point. The point is the paperwork. I flipped the document open to page 4. I pointed to a paragraph highlighted in yellow. You said your lawyer found a loophole, I said. He was wrong. What he found was a dormancy period. The previous lender stopped chasing you because they were going bankrupt. But when Cerberus Capital, that's me, bought the debt, the clock reset. So what? Marcus sneered, regaining some of his color. So you own a piece of paper? You think you can collect? I'll drag this out in court for 10 years. I have lawyers on retainer who eat little boys like you for breakfast. You could do that, I agreed, taking a bite of the turkey. It was dry. If this were a standard unsecured loan. But it's not. I tapped the paper again. You signed a general security agreement with a cross-collateralization clause. Do you know what that means, Trent? I looked at my cousin, who was busy texting under the table. It means, I continued, that the loan isn't just tied to the boat. It's tied to any asset listed under your name or your business holding company at the time of signing. What are you talking about? Trent frowned. Your Porsche, I said. The Cayman S in the driveway. It's leased under Marcus Vance Holdings, isn't it? Trent looked at his father. Dad, Marcus slammed his hand on the table. Enough. This is my house. You come in here, eat my food, and threaten me? Get out. Get out before I throw you out. I'm not threatening you, Uncle Marcus, I said, wiping my mouth with the cheap paper napkin they had given me. I'm notifying you. This is a courtesy. Usually, I just send the tow truck. Tow truck, Aunt Linda whimpered. Actually, I checked my watch. I sent the tow truck anyway. It's Thanksgiving. Double rates for the driver. But I felt it was worth the expense. As if on cue, flashing orange lights washed over the dining room window. The rhythmic beep 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 of a heavy vehicle reversing cut through the silence of the McMansion. No, Marcus whispered. He scrambled up from his chair, knocking over his wine. The red liquid stained the white tablecloth like a gunshot wound. He ran to the window. Hey, Marcus screamed, banging on the glass. Hey, get away from my boat. He can't hear you, Marcus, I said, remaining seated. The glass is double-paned. Expensive. Good insulation. You little rat. Trent yelled, jumping up. That's my dad's boat. You can't just take it. It's not his boat, I corrected him. It's collateral. And since the loan is in default by 180 days, ownership has technically reverted to the note holder. That's me. I'll kill you, Marcus roared, turning from the window. His face was purple. He marched toward me, fists clenched. I wouldn't do that, I said, not moving. Assaulting a creditor during a repossession is a felony. And since I have the audio recording app running on my phone right now, I pulled my phone out and placed it on the table. It would be very easy to send you to jail on top of bankruptcy. Marcus stopped. He was breathing hard, his chest heaving under his velvet blazer. Why are you doing this? Aunt Linda cried, tears streaming down her face. Dante, we're family. We invited you to dinner. You invited me to fill a seat, I said coldly. You put me on a folding chair. You mocked my car. You mocked my life. You laughed about stealing $500,000 from a lender because you thought you were smarter than everyone else. I stood up. I folded the document and put it back in my pocket. You talk about the game, Marcus, I said. Well, the game has rules. You borrow, you pay. You don't pay, you lose. Call the driver off, Marcus begged, his voice cracking. The bravado was gone. He was just a man watching his status symbol being hooked up to a hitch. Dante, please. The neighbors are watching. The homeowners association, they'll find me. It's humiliating. Humiliating? I asked. Like telling your nephew he's worthless because he drives a Civic? Like bragging about fraud while eating truffle potatoes? Outside, the sound of metal grinding on metal screeched. The boat was being secured. Stop it, and I'll pay you, Marcus shouted. I'll write you a check right now. $10,000. A down payment. I don't want a down payment, I said. I want the full balance. $540,000. Plus interest. Plus the repo fees. I don't have $500,000 liquid, Marcus screamed. Everything is tied up in the house. In the dealership. I know, I said. I ran your credit report this morning. You're over-leveraged, Marcus. You're drowning. I walked toward the window and looked out. The Seawolf 2 was moving. Slowly, majestically, it was being pulled down the driveway, away from the house it had never truly belonged to. Nice boat, I said. I think I'll sell it at auction. Or maybe I'll keep it. I've always wanted to learn how to sail. Dante, please, Trent said, stepping forward. He looked terrified. Is he taking my car too? I looked at Trent, the kid who had never worked a day in his life. The kid who measured people by their horsepower. The repo order for the Porsche is in the system, I said. But the driver told me his flatbed is full with the boat. He can't take 2 vehicles tonight. Trent let out a sigh of relief. Oh, thank God. However, I added, reaching into my pocket again, I have a set of spare keys. What? Trent froze. The dealership, I explained. When you lease a car through a holding company, the master keys are kept on file. When I bought the debt portfolio, I got the physical files too. I held up a key fob. It had the Porsche crest on it. I'm not towing it, I said, pressing the unlock button. The headlights of the Porsche in the driveway flashed. I'm driving it home. My Civic has a flat tire anyway. You can't drive my car. Trent shrieked. It's not your car, Trent, I said, walking toward the front door. It's company property, and Cerberus Capital needs a new company vehicle. This isn't over. Marcus yelled after me. I'll sue you. I'll call the police. I'll tell everyone. Tell them, I said, opening the door. Tell them you defaulted. Tell them you're broke. Tell them your nephew, the paper pusher, just repoed your life. I stepped out onto the porch. The cold air hit my face. The tow truck was already turning the corner with the boat. I walked over to the Porsche. I opened the door. The leather smelled rich and new. I looked back at the house. Marcus was in the window, watching me. Aunt Linda was crying. Trent was kicking the tire of my old Civic. I started the engine. It roared to life. A beast of an engine that Trent didn't deserve. But I wasn't done. There was one last thing. I rolled down the window and shouted back at the house. Hey, Marcus. He stared at me, defeated. The cornucopia. I yelled. The gold one on the table. What about it? He screamed back. It's fake gold leaf. I shouted. I can tell from here. Just like everything else in this house. I floored the accelerator. The Porsche 911 handled the curves of the highway beautifully. It was a shame, really, that Trent had treated it like a toy instead of a machine. I could feel the transmission slipping slightly. Evidence of too many aggressive starts at stoplights to impress girls who didn't care. I pulled into the parking lot of my office building the next morning. It wasn't a skyscraper, but it was a solid, brick building in the financial district. Cerberus Capital. My secretary, Ellen, was already at her desk. She looked up over her glasses as I walked in, spinning the Porsche key fob on my finger. Nice car, she noted. Did we buy a dealership? Not yet, I said. But give it an hour. I went into my office and poured a coffee. I didn't have to wait long. At 9:15 a.m., the elevator doors dinged, and I heard the heavy, frantic footsteps of Uncle Marcus. He burst into my office. He was wearing the same clothes as the night before. The velvet blazer was wrinkled, his loafers scuffed. He looked like he hadn't slept. He looked like a man on the run. You can't do this, Marcus shouted, slamming his hands on my desk. I called the police. They said it's a civil matter. They said you have the paperwork. Good morning to you too, Marcus, I said, taking a sip of coffee. And yes, the police are correct. Repossession is perfectly legal when the debtor is in default. Give me back the boat, Marcus pleaded, his voice cracking. And the car. Trent is crying in his room. He can't go to the gym without his Porsche. It's cruel, Dante. Cruel is charging a 20% markup on sedans to single mothers with bad credit. I countered. That's how you run your dealership, isn't it? I saw your books. That's business. Marcus yelled. Look, I can get you the money. I just need time. Give me 30 days. I'll liquidate some stock. I'll sell the vacation home. You don't have 30 days, I said, opening a file on my laptop. And you can't sell the vacation home because it has 3 liens on it already. I checked. I turned the screen so he could see. This is the acceleration clause in your loan agreement, I explained. It states that if the borrower attempts to conceal assets, defraud the lender, or if the collateral is deemed to be at risk, the lender can demand the full balance immediately. At risk? Marcus scoffed. My assets are fine. You told me at dinner that the gold cornucopia was fake. I reminded him. That made me question the validity of your other assets. So, I initiated a forensic audit of the dealership's inventory overnight. Marcus went pale. You audited the lot. I did. You're missing 12 cars, Marcus. You sold them, but you never paid off the floor plan lenders. That's called selling out of trust. It's bank fraud. Marcus collapsed into the guest chair. He put his head in his hands. I was going to pay it back, he whispered. It was just a cash flow gap. The market slowed down. It's over, I said. I've already contacted the other lenders. They are calling in their loans today. By noon, the dealership will be in receivership. And guess who is the primary creditor positioned to buy the assets for pennies on the dollar? Marcus looked up. His eyes were red, hollow. You, he rasped. Me, I confirmed. I'm not just taking the boat, Marcus. I'm taking the business, the building, the inventory, the sign out front. But that's my legacy, he cried. The Vance Auto Group is my name. Not anymore, I said. I think I'll rename it. Maybe Karma Motors? Or just Civic Pride? I reached into my drawer and pulled out a single sheet of paper. This is a surrender form, I said. If you sign this, I'll agree not to press criminal charges for the 12 missing cars. You walk away. You lose the business. You lose the boat. You lose the Porsche. But you stay out of prison. Marcus stared at the pen. He looked at me, the nephew he had mocked for driving a beat-up car. He realized that the paper pusher held his freedom in his hands. With a shaking hand, he took the pen. He signed. Get out of my office, I said. He stood up. He walked to the door, a broken man. Dante, he asked, pausing at the threshold. Yeah. Can I get a ride home? My wife took the SUV. I took an Uber here, and I'm out of cash. I looked at the keys to the Porsche sitting on my desk. The bus stop is 2 blocks down, I said. It's only $2.50. I'm sure you can find that in your couch cushions. Unless those are fake too. Epilogue, 6 months later. The sign on the building was simple, modern, and clean. Vance Motors. I hadn't gone with a petty name. I kept the family name because I wanted to redeem it. I walked through the showroom. It was busy. Salespeople were actually talking to customers, not pressuring them. The predatory lending practices were gone. We offered fair rates. We sold reliable cars. Hey, boss, my manager called out. We need a signature on the new delivery. On it, I said. I walked outside to the lot. A transport truck was unloading a fleet of new electric vehicles. In the corner of the lot, a guy was washing a trade-in sedan. He was wearing a blue jumpsuit, scrubbing the tires with a brush. He looked sweaty and miserable. It was Trent. I walked over to him. You missed a spot on the rim, Trent, I said, pointing to a smudge of grease. Trent looked up. He wiped his forehead with his sleeve. He didn't sneer. He didn't make a joke about my shoes. He looked terrified of losing this minimum wage job. Sorry, Dante. I mean, Mr. Vance, Trent said. I'll get it right away. Good, I said. And Trent. Yeah. Don't lean on the hood. You might scratch the paint. I walked away, heading toward my car parked in the reserved spot. I still drove the 2008 Civic. I had fixed the dented bumper and bought new tires, but I kept it. It was reliable. It kept me humble. The Porsche? I sold it. I used the money to start a scholarship fund for trade schools. I got into my Civic and started the engine. It purred. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Uncle Marcus. Dante, Aunt Linda needs surgery. We don't have insurance anymore. Can you help? Please. I looked at the message. I thought about the folding chair. I thought about the beggar's seat. But I also thought about the look on Trent's face. He was working. He was trying. I typed a reply. Send the bill to the office. I'll pay the hospital directly. But Marcus? Don't ever ask me for cash again. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. I wasn't a monster. I was just a businessman. And sometimes, the best return on investment is showing people mercy they don't deserve, just to prove you can afford it. I pulled out of the lot, merging into traffic. The heat in the Civic finally kicked in. It felt better than any heated leather seat ever could.